Okay, thank you, and welcome to this little session, which is a bit of a chat and a bit of a introduction to SBR, and is an opportunity for me to engage with you and you to engage with me in some way, shape, or form. Before I make a proper start, though, I'm a little bit curious to know a little bit more about who I'm talking to in some respects. And so you should see a poll appearing in your screen, and there's no right answer and there's no wrong answer. And these are anonymous polls. But I'm just curious to know, for example, whether you did an exam this week. Can you see that poll? Are you able to answer that poll? Because although I've launched it, I think there's some kind of technical issue here. Oh, it popped up, then it disappeared. Okay, let me try again. Here we are live. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, it was a relaunch poll. Yes. There we are. So I am curious to know as to whether you did an exam this week. And by the look of it, quite a few of you did exams this week, but equally by the look of it, nobody really feels that confident. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the ACCA do exams, 4 times a year, don't they? So I don't think you should feel under a particular pressure to take an exam every 3 months. I don't think that's necessarily the case, unless you're in a particular rush, unless you're, desperate to qualify for some particular reason. Now, in terms of, my exam scenario, people are coming through to SBR, and I'm always slightly interested in knowing a little bit about their background. And in this context, that background is whether you've done FR, whether you've done skills. And typically it's a kind of 50-50 scenario. And actually what I'm seeing here is a fairly typical result in terms of the people who are engaging here with me this morning, in that it's 50-50. And even those of you who've done the skills, even though those of you who've done the skills and passed FR, some of you may have done that 6 months ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Some of you may have scraped it with 50. I don't know. And so in designing my courses and in approaching SBR, I always have that attitude of teaching you what you need to know to pass the exam. And therefore, I don't particularly have an aggressive attitude about assumed knowledge. I take you through the basics. I build you up to make sure that you can cope with the fancy stuff, and that you are going to get the low-hanging fruit. You are going to get the easy marks. So those of you who are rusty on your FR, if you're going to come on a course with me, I wouldn't be particularly worried or stressed about that. I know where you're coming from, and I'm here to help you in that regard. This is my third and this is my final poll, just to make me curious and to find out a little bit more about you. And what I'm learning from this poll, by the look of it, is most of you are virgins, effectively, because you're coming to SBR, you're coming to ACCA, not having passed a single, not having passed a strategic professional exam. And even if you've passed skills, it's a step up. It's an academic level step up. It's a pressure. There's no multiple choice questions. Yeah, and it's a little bit more discursive. It's a little bit more it's an academic level up. It is a step up. It is a step up. So, you know, I think you kind of have to bear that. I think you have to kind of bear that in mind in terms of your planning process. So yeah, thank you for participating in those polls. It's anonymous. It's not going anywhere. It just gives me a little bit of understanding about who I'm talking to and what I'm talking about. So this session, if we're still talking after an hour, I'll be kind of wanting to cut it, you know. I've got some things that I want to say, I want to run through. You've got access to the chat, and I'm happy to answer questions in the middle and towards the end, coming up on the chat. And, you know, if at the end we want to turn our mics off and just have a general kind of physical verbal chat, I'm more than happy to do that. Equally, of course, yeah, I'm sitting here with my WhatsApp, and at the end of the session, I'll be on my WhatsApp, clearing any particular one-to-one messages and having any conversations that people want to have with me. So introductions, yeah, introductions. So you've introduced yourself a little bit to me through the polls, and I want to introduce myself a little bit to you. I did these exams. I was an ACCA student. Yeah, I mean, I left school at 16. I kind of rediscovered that I needed to, you know, make something of myself. And ACCA was that vehicle, was that thing for me. So I studied whilst I was in a job throughout my 20s, and I eventually qualified. So I know what it's like to study and to work. And actually, I also know what it's like to study online. I did 8 years ago when I was living in Singapore, I did an online degree. I did my master's online. So I have some experience on your side of the fence, despite the fact that I'm old. Despite the fact that I'm old. When I qualified, I was working with KPMG, but do you know what? It wasn't for me. All right. It wasn't for me. I had a great job. I dealt with the bankruptcies of George Best and Gary Glitter. Those of you who may know those people, both of them went bankrupt. Both of them passed through my office, but that's another whole life and another whole story. I fell into teaching. I found my vocation in teaching. AT, Emil Wolf, FTC, then we became Kaplan. And I was based in London. I ran the London office, had a fantastic time, great relationships with ACCA, great relationships throughout the world. And that led me to go and teach in Singapore and live in Singapore for a number of years, had a great experience. And when I came back, I dabbled a little bit with the university sector, but I found what I wanted to do was something new and refreshing and exciting, which was get online. And so I was online before the pandemic, plugging away, supporting students, selling courses, getting them through the exams with FME. Fantastic organization. And I still work with ACCA. I have a long, you know, I was at a meeting this week with them. I have a long-standing relationship with ACCA, both as a member, but sometimes a little bit behind the scenes, helping them out as well. So that's a little bit more about me. I am, you know, for the last 25 years, I have been teaching students to pass the SBR, the P2, the FRE, the AFA, the final level accountancy exams. I've been there all the way. So I want to talk to you a little bit about specifically the SBR exam that I specialize in and that you want to pass. It's like so many ACCA exams, compulsory, 100 marks, 3 hours 15. Yeah, we have to cover the full syllabus. You do not know what is going to come up in the exam. I do not know what's going to come up in the exam. Yeah. I mean, I can get lucky, you know, in one of my mocks, there was a big segmental reporting question. And in the last exam, some of you got a big segmental reporting question. I mean, a little bit random, a little bit lucky. That's why you need to make your own luck by making sure that you cover the full syllabus. All right. It does link with FR. I've talked about how I don't assume too much knowledge about FR. I want to build you. I want to build you up so you understand the complexities. I don't just dive in at the deep end. All right. It is a narrative. It is an explaining exam. It's not about number crunching, although we can talk a little bit about numbers as they will be appearing in September exam, but it's mostly words. It's mostly explaining. It's mixing up your knowledge with the facts that you're given, the scenario that you're given, and creating an answer using your judgment, because sometimes there's no absolutely right or wrong answer. Okay, so I have very briefly got you to introduce yourself through the medium of the polls. I've introduced myself and we've talked about the exam. So there's a number of different people here, and I want to talk to you about the resources that are potentially available to you to help you pass the exam. And I'm going to start with my resources. I'm going to start by talking very briefly about, so this is an advert now, all right? I'm going to start very briefly by talking about what I can do for you. I provide and support online courses. So it doesn't matter whether you're in Kenya or Scotland or London, yeah, whatever time zone you're in, my courses are on demand. I support you through WhatsApp. I support you through marking your homework, marking your mocks, making sure that you're getting that quality feedback and support. And because I give you the resources, because I give you the support, because I give you the mocks, I believe that you will pass this examination. I give you a pass assurance. All right. Now, basically, that means if you don't pass the exam, because it's possible for you to have a bad day, I will support you again on a reset at no charge. I will support you again on a reset at no charge. The small print there is you have to do the exam and you have to get 40%, because I do acknowledge that people can have a bad day at the office. So I'm very proud of my courses. You know, my platinum course takes you all the way through from beginning, middle to end. I also have a kind of reset course, a revision plus course that sits for people who just kind of want that last minute sprint. June, September. I don't know. I don't know your shoe size. I don't walk in your shoes. Some of you are working. Some of you are not working. Some of you have passed exams before. Some of you haven't done a strategic professional exam before. Some of you are strong on FR. Some of you are weak on FR. Some of you have got children, babies to look after. Some of you have got parents to look after. Some of you are young, vibrant, yeah, hardworking. And some of you are like, you know, I can't quite make this decision for you. If you're going to go for June, May is the month of revision. If you're going to go for June, you've got 6 weeks to get through tuition. Yeah, it's not too late, but you leave it another week, you leave it a little like, yeah, and I'm going to close my courses soon. If you want to come on, if you want to do the exam for June, yeah, commit to it this weekend. Sign up, sort it out, sort your life out. Because if you're going to go for June, May is the month of revision. Yeah. So you kind of, yeah, need to do the tuition phase, end the tuition phase by the end of April, which means by making a start now in March, you've got a chance to get on that train. If you're going for September August is your month of revision, and you need to finish the exam. You need to finish the tuition phase by July, which is clearly eminently doable. There's no point in talking about December. Come on, you know, it's clearly eminently doable. And the sooner you start, yeah, the better it's going to be. So I don't have a one size fits all advice. That is why I have the opportunity for you to enroll for June and the opportunity for you to enroll for September, depending on what suits you. That is why I have a WhatsApp. That is why if you want to talk to me and for me to listen to your specific advice for specific circumstances, I can give you some specific advice after having listened to you on a one-to-one. But Vishal, I'll come back to that point in a moment, but I'm curious to know where you are at the moment by launching another poll. And that poll I'm trying to launch isn't launching. Why isn't that poll launching? Come on, poll, technology, be nice to me. Okay, all right, the poll's not going to launch. Let's give it one more chance. One more chance, and it's not going to launch. Okay, so let me use the chat box, please. If you're thinking that June is your exam, can you put the letter J in? And if you think that September is the exam for you, can you put the letter S in? Let's keep it nice and simple. And obviously I haven't got an ability to mathematically work it out, but you know, Gloria's saying June, Fahim saying September. Ah, Hadi, that's an interesting one, sitting on the fence. Fair enough. It's looking a little bit 50-50. It's looking a little bit 50-50. Maybe some of you, more of you favoring June. If you sign up for June with me, fantastic. If you sign up for June with me, you can hedge your bets. You can start studying now for June. And then when the results come out in a month's time, when the results come out in mid-April, if your results don't go the way you wanted them to, or if in 4 weeks' time you realize you're not kind of halfway through the course, you're not coming to an end, then I will transfer you to September. So you can have your cake and eat it. But the only way of committing, the only way of being prepared for June is to commit for June now. Yeah. And then you can sail through, or if it gets a bit choppy. So I'm giving you that flexibility. Now, it's already been mentioned that things are changing in September. It's already been asked in the chat about the changes in September, and I want to tell you about those changes now. Fundamentally, there's no change. Fundamentally, the knowledge level that you need and the syllabus is going to be the same. But the way the exam is presented for question number 1, and question number 1 is on groups, fundamentally, the way that question 1 is going to work, it's going to work in a very different way. So it's group accounts that is changing. And I think it's a fair comment to call it same, but different. Same technical knowledge, but a different way that you present your answer, a different way that you will be taught, you will be tested. You will be presented with the answer. You will be presented with a full set of consolidated financial statements, either a group balance sheet or a group P&L or even potentially a group cash flow. So it's all been prepared. But those financial statements will be wrong. They will need amending. They'll be out of date. There will be a convertible loan note that's been issued and it's all been classified as debt. There won't have been an impairment review on goodwill, which you'll then have to calculate and you'll then have to split with the NCI. The investment in the associate will simply be at cost and won't have reflected equity accounting, whatever. So you will then have to take that pre-populated spreadsheet and you will have to change the numbers, but you will never be asked to construct the original set of financial statements from scratch because a computer does that, a spreadsheet does that. Yeah, that's what you do at FR. That's what you do at FA. We're now sitting at the top of the tree. We're now just fiddling around a few numbers and explaining what those numbers mean, explaining what the adjustments mean. So on the left here, that's the question. On the left there, that is the pre-populated spreadsheet that you could be given. There are the financial statements given to you. And on the right is your spreadsheet answer, because you've gone and recorded. Look, take the first column. Yeah, there's an impairment loss on goodwill of 348. So we've taken 348 away and we've taken whatever, you know, we're adjusting the financial statements through those columns. That's what it looks like. Now, obviously, in between, there's another narrative and there's another set of explanations. But this is the bit that is new. What do you think of that? What do you think of that change? Does that change scare you, excite you, not bother you? Does anybody have any views that they just want to quickly share on the chat? Yeah, 10 to 14 marks. 10 to 14 marks on the numbers. Lucy, what was before was that you just did some numbers. You didn't have the pre-populated spreadsheet. What was before, Lucy, is what is going to happen for June. If you're going for June, you're just being asked, can you calculate one number and can you explain one number? You're not seeing the full set of financial statements. Jane, I almost think you're a plant for ACCA, because this is one of the things that ACCA are effectively trying to do in the way that they are moving forward the presentation, because they are giving you an Excel spreadsheet and saying change it, because they think, well, that's what happens in the real world. So Jane, you're validating how the exam process is trying to mimic and support you in the workplace. So somebody's asked me, which one do you think is easier? Don't know. Neither are easy. I don't think it's more difficult, and I don't think it's easier either way. I just think it's different. And if it's different, you need to be prepared on your course for that difference. You need to be prepared on revision for that new way of doing it. You need to. So I've already updated my September course, not my June course, because my June course is doing it the traditional way, but I've already updated and launched my September course to reflect these changes. And I'm in the process of updating my August revision course. So it will be fully up to date, yeah, with mocks that reflect this. All right. So I don't think either is easy. I just think you need to be prepared, properly prepared. Academically, it's the same level, and it's how the information is presented. So I hope that's reassuring I hope that's reassuring. I hope that explains to you the differences. Resources. All right. If we're talking about resources that are available, LinkedIn is a resource. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, well, I suspect most of you are, but, you know, rinse my back catalog. There's various documents I've posted up. There's various things I've done there, which are always useful, I think. I do a podcast series, so you can find me very easily on Spotify. And, you know, so in other words, I have a monetary transaction with students that I fully support, give them the pass guarantee, give them the marking. I'm here for them 24/7, but I'm also putting it out there that there's some stuff. Tino, they are on Spotify. They are on Spotify. They're on Google, they're on Apple. Yeah, just put into the Google search engine my name, Tom Clendon, SBR podcast, and trust me, you will find links to it because I have an unusual name. I have an unusual name, yeah. Instagram. I do Instagram. I don't do TikTok. I don't do TikTok. But I do if you like Instagram. It's hard actually to convey technical information on Instagram. YouTube, and I've got a recording of this, and I'll be posting a recording of this up on YouTube so people can see it. Actually, that's an old screenshot. I've got I don't know, 2,500, 3,000 subscribers now. So yeah, by all means, find me on YouTube if that's what you want. If that's what you want. But this is the best free resource out there, which is the practice platform, because that contains all the past examinations. I mean, it's easy to pick up a book. It's easy to pick up, you know, some online stuff. But actually the ACCA's practice platform contains the past exams, and I think is a very, very useful tool. I've got some questions that I want to cover, but let me just pause for a moment and please feel free to use the chat box if you do have an immediate question that you just want to dive in now about anything, you know, about anything. Feel free to ask. Okay, someone's asked about the definitions. Do you get marks for the definition and quoting the exact name of the standard? Well, the short answer to that question really is no. You certainly don't need to know or remember that IFRS 13 is fair value measurement. There's no marks ever in the marking guide for that rote learning. And is the and you're never going to be asked what is the definition of fair value. Now, fair value is market value. Fair value is the amount you would expect to receive on the sale of an asset in an orderly transaction between market participants. But I would never really write that in the exam. I might say, you know, Tom is getting a price from his wife, who is a related party and therefore not a market participant, and therefore this is not the fair value we should be using. Yeah? Or although it will cost Tom 500 to replace the asset, that is not the fair value, because the fair value is the exit value. It's what Tom could sell it for. So you integrate your knowledge, you show off your knowledge in a contextualized situation. Calvin, how is the change going to be factored on the material on the ACCA practice platform? They will be updating it. You know, I've already updated my September tuition material. So if you enroll on my course for September, I've got marked assignments already up there for you to do, to be practicing in this new format. By the time we get to July and August, I expect the ACCA to have launched their own revised material on the practice platform. Jeff asks a very direct question. Hi, Jeff. I got a message from you earlier today. I think maybe it's the same Jeff. Would you recommend doing SBR before AAA? Yes, 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 yes. Do not do AAA until you've done SBR. When you've done SBR, you've got a choice of what you do. You should do SBL last. Strategic Business Leader is the exam that normally is best done last, because you've got more experience of exams, you've got more experience of the world, you've got more experience of bullshit, and SBL, yeah, which is also going through some major changes for September with the pre-SEAM. You do SBL last. Normally people do SBR first as the entrance exam, effectively, to strategic. And then if you want to do AAA, you do AAA immediately after SBR. But you do your options in between, and your SBR and your SBL sort of sandwich, yeah, sandwich your two options. Halim says, I've done 2 FME, both were great, but one was different. One tutor was a lot more interactive than the other, as they personally mark the homeworks and mocks. Yeah, that's me. That's the kind of thing I do. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I do. My course is very similar to Ben's and Sunil's in that regard. Absolutely, Halima. Yeah, very, 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 very much so. Very much so. So I can rest assured, and if you're unhappy, I would give you a full refund. You know, I don't deal with that. You know, I've never had to honor that. So Halim, I look forward to, yeah, working with you, please. I can absolutely rest assure you that I'm like that revision, but like the positive experience you've had with FME. I'm disappointed that you had a slightly unsatisfactory experience. If you let me know, I can follow that up. Not a problem. Vishal says, how long are my platinum revision courses? How many hours would it take to complete? The revision course is a train. The revision course is designed for you to get on a month before the exam. So if you're going for June, if you're going for June, May is the month of revision, and you are then given a series of deadlines, a series of marked assignments, a series of mock exams that you are doing, and you are working hard. You are, I'm assuming, at work, yeah, but you are committing to working, yeah, 2 or 3 evenings a week as well at the weekend during that revision phase to get through. I'm deliberately not putting a precise number of hours on it. In terms of the tuition, you know, by coming with me, by going with an approved learning provider, you're accelerating that process. It's far longer if you haven't got the feedback. It's far longer if you're just reading a text or reading a screen. It's much easier when things are explained to you. Excellent, Halima, excellent. I just wrote SBL last week. This is going to be my first reporting exam of ACCA. Rest were all exempted last time. What roadmap would you recommend? Well, Saeed, good luck. Yeah, you've done SBL. It'd be interesting. I would really like, if you wanted to WhatsApp me, really like to hear about your experience of SBL, because I think that will shape how you go forward for SBR. What worked for you in those environments, yeah, perhaps can be repeated. So the roadmap for me would be, yeah, let's get on with SBR. You know, let's get on with SBR. Let's get your core papers out of the way. Halima, yeah, actually my revision course opens up on results day on the 16th of April. I've got some enrollments on it already, but the material gets released then, and that gives you the maximum amount of time to hit those marking deadlines and the support mechanisms. The mock exams are all at the weekend on the back end. So yeah, good. I'm glad you found SBL pretty simple. It's fairly common sense. So Halima, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, not a problem. Let's do that. This is a question I get asked all the time. And I don't mind what you do. I don't mind what you do, whether you do the international variant or whether you do the UK, the British variant, FRS 102. Most people do the international. 95%, 96% of students do the international. A few students will do the UK variant or the Irish variant because they want a practicing certificate. Because they want a practicing certificate, because they want to be the audit engagement partner, because they want to trade on their own. And if in the UK and Ireland, you want to be a sole practitioner or an audit engagement partner, you need to do SBR variant, and you need to do AAA with the AAA variant as well. If you're doing the UK variant, the Irish variant, there's a little bit of extra knowledge that you need to know, and I teach it to you. All right. So I don't mind which version of the exam you ultimately enter. I will support you either way. I just want your eyes to be open if you're going down the UK or Irish variant. Good. Good. Are there any other questions that you would like to ask me? Yeah, can I explain how ethics is examined? Okay, yeah. So ethics is examined at SBR as part of a compulsory question number 2. And it's often examined. It's examined in a practical case study scenario. So you have someone who's got an ethical dilemma, and you're having to observe and critique the ethical dilemma that they're in, and basically tell them what they should be doing. And in doing so, you've got to link it back to the pillars. Yeah, the pillars, the ethical pillars, because by doing that, you then earn those professional marks. Yeah, you then earn those professional marks. So yeah, it's written, it's practical. And there was something in the last exam around IT, about how the introduction of IT has impacted on the ethical requirements of accountants, because we do need to make sure that we look after that we're competent on IT. So competence is an ethical issue. Confidentiality is an ethical issue, so that we are protecting customer data. Yeah, their credit cards, for example, should be encrypted, not just put under lock and key, but should be encrypted, so that we're not, it'd be disastrous for the business model if our systems were hacked. So we've got an ethical duty to our customers to run strong systems, so on and so forth. I've been given 9 papers exempted. Well done. Good degree. Is there any particular order you would recommend me to do those final papers? Yes. And funnily enough, this was something that we were bouncing around with ACCA. And there was a consensus at the meeting I went to this week. There was a consensus as to the order in which you should do your strategic professional exams. Now, ACCA is very flexible. So this is a recommendation. This is coming from me. But is the SBR first? It's got good pass rates, links with your FR knowledge. It's what accounting is about. It means that you then can understand the other papers in that context. So SBR first. If you're then going to do audit, do AAA immediately after SBR. But if you're not going to do audit, do another optional paper and then finish with SBL. Yeah, finish with SBL. So if it were me, I would do SBR, AAA, I would do advanced performance, I would do APM. I'm not a fan of spreadsheets and I'm not a fan of the cost of capital stuff. When I was a student, I found that hard. I found tax really hard too. Others of you will say, oh, crazy, Tom. Hey, I love tax, love cost of capital. You choose those options. You know, it's up to you what options you want to choose. So you've already attempted AAA as I've already attempted AAA as I did not take attempt SBR. Is it the same ethics part, which I've already done? Yeah, the ethical principles are the same. You know, it's the 5 pillars: OPIC, objectivity, yeah, competence, professional behavior, integrity, confidentiality. So the ethical principles are the same, but the way it's tested will be different. In SBR, we have a very particular kind of case study in that regard. Good. I love SBR. There's a few numbers. There's some technical accounting standards. There's a bit of common sense. There's a bit of current issues. I love it. AAA versus tax, which one is better paired with SBL? Probably AAA, but if anything is paired with SBL, it's APM. APM. Advanced performance management. There's a little bit of an overlap between APM and SBL. But SBL is very much a case study scenario. Now, there are changes happening in SBL for September. There's going to be a pre-scene. For June, you have, I think, 4¼ hours to do the exam. You just rock up, you do the exam. For SBL in September, this was, again, something else that was discussed at the meeting. For SBL in September, they're going to give you a pre-scene document. So you read up about a case, you read up about the industry, the bed industry, you get some numbers, you get a story, and you read that before you go into the exam. And then in the exam, you get told, oh, this is what you've got to do. This is the report you've got to write. Oh, and by the way, you know, the managing director, she's just died, or by the way, the company's just been taken over, or by the way, the overseas market, they're now in the middle of a civil war or something, and we've got to close that down. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So SBL is changing for September with the pre-scene, but that's not really what we're here to talk about. In SBR, there is no pre-scene. In SBR, you rock up, you do the exam. And in SBL, the pre-scene is released 2 weeks before the exam, and yes, you can still access it in the exam. You can read it again in the exam. So I hope that answers your question for the pre-scene for SBL. SBL. Would you like to hear a joke? Would you like to hear a joke? You might not. You might regret saying that. You might regret saying that. There are 3 types of accountant. 3 types of accountant. Yeah. Those who can count and those who can't. There we go. That was the joke. What did one cannibal say to the other? So a cannibal was eating a clown. A cannibal was eating a clown, and it said to his mate, I don't know about you, but I think this one tastes funny. Now, as you can see, I'm running out of things to say. So look, you know, if you want to come with me for SBR, you know where I am, you know what I'm about. I'm happy to talk to you on a one-to-one basis. And I'm happy to support you because, you know, there is disintermediation. There is disintermediation. You're dealing with me. All right. I design, I write, I deliver, I support my courses. If you go with another platinum provider like Kaplan, if you go with another platinum provider, you're going with an institution. Okay. So you may have different people you're engaging with. They may be out of offices and that kind of thing. If you come with me, you're coming with me. So you get a consistency of quality, you get a consistency of delivery, you get a passionate person who has skin in the game and has given you a pass assurance, so wants you to pass as much as you want to pass. Good. Okay. I don't think I've got anything more to say. You know where to find me. I'm here to help you pass. Whether it's June or whether it's September is up to you. But I am going to say now, going. Thank you very much. Let's stop the recording.